Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, I've wanted to talk to this guy for years. It's Matt Lightner. You may have heard his name before. Maybe you run across some equipment that he rebuilt. I certainly have. But Matt does so much more than rebuild equipment. He's got a staff that does that, but he also does major AV installations, and he's built some pretty much big city studios, and now he's into station ownership. We're going to learn all about Matt Lightner and get some encouragement about broadcast engineering and what else you can do if you're a broadcast engineer. All that's coming up next on TWiRT.
This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store, with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics, with the Bionic Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Air, featuring Playout One radio automation software, comprehensive streaming solutions, website content management, and social media tools for maximum listener engagement on the web at AIIR.com. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts.
Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower, everything in between. I'm Kirk Harnack in Nashville, Tennessee, here at my office, and it's the Max Connect office here in Nashville. As I'm working with those guys now, doing some consulting with them and having a good time. Glad you could join us. It is a beautiful day here in Nashville, although I hear we're in for one more blast of winter, because we're in false spring right now. False spring is this weekend, and one more blast of winter coming up with temperatures dropping back into the 20s sometime late next week. But enough about the weather. We're going to head northeast, actually, into Pennsylvania and talk to a gentleman who we've never had on the show before, and shame on me for not inviting him sooner. With us is Matt Lightner. Matt, welcome in. It's good to see you.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Kirk. How are you today?
I'm good. Matt Lightner, I got to tell you, I'll just embarrass myself now. I thought that all you did was refurbish equipment, because I would go to a few different radio stations, and I was told, Matt Lightner's company refurbished this console, or he fixed up this piece of equipment. Oh, that must be what the guy does. Yeah, he's really good at it. So that's all I thought you did. But it turns out there's a lot more to Matt Lightner. Why don't you give me the elevator speech on who Matt Lightner is, and then we'll get into some interesting insights you have into the world of contract engineering business and making it profitable and keeping it really going. So first of all, Matt, tell me a bit about yourself, who you are.
Well, I started at a very young age in radio, sort of by accident. One of my friends owned a radio station, and I'll be interested in a lot of the aspects on radio. And, I was always into computers, electronics and everything like that. So it was an interesting start into radio. And just a brief summary, we, started working for some local stations here around Altoona, Pennsylvania. I did contract work, and actually worked full time right out of high school for a station as a chief engineer for a few years, and then started my company. And the company did at first contract engineering for mainly radio stations, and then we evolved into a full blown systems integration company that ended up doing a lot of large scale integration projects across the United States. And from there, we moved into, I got sick of living out of a suitcase a little bit every day. So the company sort of moved a little more into doing more local broadcast work and audio video work to fill in the side for a lot of local corporate clients and houses of worship and things like that, which is really close to broadcast anymore. So now the company, we pretty much still do a fair amount of radio. And we do still a little bit of integration work, a lot of AV work, and equipment refurbishing as well. So,
wow, okay. And we're As we move the show along, right after our first commercial break, we've got pictures to share, pictures of studios that you built back. Well, for example, when TDM network systems were new, and we're going to look at some studios you've built. You've built studios for ABC Radio, for Entercom, for iHeart, and plenty of others. And then later in the show, we're going to look at something that I think a lot of broadcast engineers kind of view as an area maybe they should go into. Maybe they feel they have some expertise, and that's corporate AV systems, and some pretty interesting ones that you've done as well. And I've got a feeling that sometimes there may be some good income available for engineers who are willing to learn about those kind of AV systems and houses of worship, as you mentioned too. Our show this week in Radio Tech. This week we're talking to Matt Lightner, Lightner Electronics up in Pennsylvania in the Altoona area. And we've got pictures to share and stories to tell and some learning to do. Some of Matt's thoughts about, transitioning into other areas just from pure broadcast engineering. Matt is also, part owner of some radio stations in Pennsylvania. And that's an interesting topic, too, because there are a few engineers in the United States that started out as engineers and moved into ownership or management of broadcast facilities. So now all that's coming up. Our show is brought to you in part by AIR, AIIR. I got to spell it every time, air.com. And we talked with Ricky Lee about their streaming service and how you can save a ton of money, especially if you've got a bunch of radio stations, by switching your streaming over to AIR. Here's Ricky.
Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of AIR. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with AIR.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month, all you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through AIR?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming, and from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
Thanks a lot, Ricky Lee, and thanks to air.com, makers also of the Playout One automation system. I use it. We use it at 21 radio stations, and we're delighted, with the service, because sometimes you need a little help with a complex automation system. And with 21 of them, we use them in several different ways, voice tracking and running news talk and running, of course, music stations, and doing morning shows on those just-in-time delivery, like Murphy, Sam, and Jody, and John Tesh, and things like that. We run all that stuff, and I'll tell you what, the Playout One system does it great. Thanks, air.com, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech, and we'll see you at the NAB show. If you're there, I'll be right next door to AIR over at the Max Connect booth. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack. We're talking to Matt Lightner. And Matt, I tell you what, you've supplied a bunch of pictures, and we can always learn from pictures. I really enjoy talking about those. We're going to start with a whole bevy of radio integration photos, networks, and radio stations. So, Matt, if you don't mind, I'm just going to let our producer, Suncast, jump into them. I guess they're in alphabetical order, or however you put them in the Dropbox. And some of these are a little bit older. So tell me what we're looking at and what we might learn of either back then, or how are we doing things differently today? What's this?
So this is actually ABC Radio Networks in Dallas. This is a production room here. You'll see some other photos that show you the control room and the talk studio. But this was for the Michael Baisden studio. It was right when Citadel had purchased ABC, and they hired us to build the first WheatNet system in this facility, because it was a complete analog facility with, I believe, PRD consoles in most of the facility. And, the engineers at the time weren't real familiar with the newer technology, of WheatNet. So, we were hired to go there and build these studios out for ABC, and it was a fun project. The air talent was very demanding as far as wanting everything to sound, of course, the way he wanted with the mic processing and everything else. So we learned a lot about working with demanding talent at the time, to say the least. But it was a great project, and went very well in the end. And of course, this was back when they spent a lot of money on studios. You can see Corian countertops, and
Oh yeah.
well, it was everything. It was very, very nice in this facility.
And now, by today's standards, this looks dated. I mean, even the telephone in there is not a VoIP phone. It was, I guess some proprietary communications system with its PBX, I suppose. And so it looks dated by today's standard, even though some of the things, well, like the Vox Pro, there's a Vox Pro in there. That's still very much in vogue. What's the automation system that's over there?
I'm really not sure.
It
that would
almost
be
looks
Scott
like
Studio.
Yeah, I
that
was
was
just saying,
Scott
it looks like a Scott Studios. Okay. Wow. Well, let's go on to the next picture, and same facility, right?
Yeah, same facility. That's actually the talk studio for the talent.
Okay. And there's no audio console in there, is there?
Nope, he's the controller's in the next window over, so that could be another picture.
Underneath the Corian countertop, toward the front of the picture, I see a panel underneath there. Is that what they call nowadays a world panel?
That would be a Harris World Feed panel, yes, because
World
they had
feed
a lot
panel.
of this particular talent would have a lot of news crews coming in. So if anybody was in filming him, they would plug into the World Feed panel and be able to have an audio feed, for their video cameras.
Yeah. Okay, good idea. All right, next, let's see what's next there. Oh my goodness, that's a big studio.
Yeah, that's the control room. You had the control operator at the board, and then you had a producer in the back. This was a syndicated talk show that they were doing, so there was a lot of people that worked on this show. I mean, you had somebody in the production room, while the show was going on. You had your producer, the control person. I mean, there was it was quite the production.
Now, in the tabletop rack, the black rack that's toward the right side, like would be blocking part of the window view if you were sitting in the operating position, I see a one rack unit silver device with some red letters on it. Looks like a router control panel. Is that what that is?
That would be correct. That is actually a SAS control panel.
Oh, okay.
This was an analog facility, the ABC facility in Dallas, and that controlled all the routing. So,
in their various rooms, I noticed the speakers are placed on the countertops. Was that pretty typical in there, or did they mount any to the ceilings?
I'm not sure why they wanted them there, but that's where we were told to put them, so we put them there.
and I see the beloved Denon CD cart players, 3 of them across.
Yeah. That was emergency backup use.
So normally they normally play off the automation, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What's next? Let's see the next picture here. Here, I appreciate this. You've taken a picture with the panels underneath taken off, so you can see and maybe document what's under there.
Yes, this was a large project we did for Kansas, for Entercom in Kansas City. It was a very big WheatNet system with, I believe, 16 studios at the time. So it was. I spent a lot of time in Kansas City with our team building out this facility, and it ended up working out great. It was, it had its challenges, to make everything nice and neat and get things done on their timeline, but. We learned a lot from this project, and went, extremely well.
If you were building a studio of similar capability today, how would it be different? Not maybe the console would be smaller. Probably there'd be a lot, even more IP integration. You said this one was WheatNet, but I'll bet you more of the devices in the room would be IP connected. How would it look different today?
I would, there would probably be, just some more IP boxes as far as, using blades and things like that versus, more of a large, this system was more large scale router frame based back in the rack room, where things
Okay.
now are a lot more distributed now, with blades at different places in the facility. So you're not running near as much cabling as what this facility had. I mean, you'll see in some other pictures here of
Mhm.
some of the cabling work that we did. This was still running malt cable everywhere and doing major cross connects and wiring back to large router frames.
Oh,
Where
okay.
nowadays
Okay.
it's a lot easier nowadays with when you distributed blades or nodes, than what it was back when we did this facility.
Gotcha. So, correct me then. Is this WheatNet IP or is this TDM?
So this is TDM.
Okay, so
Which
this
was
had the Wheatstone TDM router, as you referred to, back in a central wiring area,
correct.
right? Yeah.
Now
Okay.
the consoles
Okay.
here are actually not a real console; like they're a keyboard.
Yeah.
But this was more based off of the router based system that was back in the rack room.
Okay. Now we're taking these pictures in the order in the folder, so we're actually going to skip around just a little bit. Next, I think we have a picture of some transmitters. This looks pretty modern. This was recent, wasn't it?
It's a facility we did about 2 years ago in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. HD install for a Catholic radio station group. And funny story on this was we're actually an Autel dealer. We still do a lot of integration work where we sell transmitters, antennas, and do the whole install, the whole package. And this was a package where of course they tried to beat me up on price a little bit, which was funny. And then after I got a good price to them, they were like, well, what happens if we have to go to our continental backup? And I'm like, well, your HD goes off the air. And they're like, well, we need two then. So in the end, they ended up buying two GV30s and had us integrate them. So it was quite the elaborate project.
Oh, so these are not a combined system. This is a main backup system here.
This is a main backup, and then believe it or not,
Okay.
they bought two brand new transmitters for it. So
I see you very wisely installed the ferrite cores.
yeah, correct. This is
Oh
not
my
totally
goodness.
finished. There's a couple wires we cleaned up after this, so it looked a little neater here in the end. But this was probably at about 90% completion rate here of the picture we took.
Well, it looks like a beautiful installation. Do you happen to know what was that the transfer switch where the two transmitters come together? And is that an electric transfer switch?
It is. That's a
Motorized?
MCI made that switch.
Okay, that's MCI. I hadn't dealt with any MCI switches, so I didn't really recognize the shape of it. And so I guess there's a dummy load somewhere that will take on the power of the unused transfer.
In the back left-hand corner is a large green dummy load. So
Oh yeah,
we can
there
run
it is. Okay.
transmitters into a dummy load. And we still maintain this facility for St. Joseph Missions, which is the Catholic group in Pittsburgh and owns these stations. And, so we go out a couple times a year and maintain the transmitters and monitor them from remote. We have remote access to all the Nautel transmitters and, keep an eye on things to make sure they're working, properly for them and make any adjustments they need.
Gotcha. So you said that this is running traditional FM analog, but it's also running some HD. Is it HD? How many HDs are running on there?
At this point, just HD1. So they're going to launch at some point here soon HD2, the HD2 and HD3 signals, but they're still developing content of what they want to put on those.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, let's see what's next. I think we have some wiring activity in the next picture. Oh my goodness! Oh, look at this.
Yeah, back in the day when consoles had a lot of punch blocks to them. So this was probably a A5000 or something Wheatstone analog console back in the day. So this is
well,
right when we started integrating.
I've done a fair. My work was not as neat and organized as this, but I did a fair amount of this kind of work too. And it looks like you've got documentation and color codes and things are cable tied off well, and just everything looks way better than what I did. But the next step after this, along came IP, and instead of spending our time doing this, we were spending our time doing command line configuration of Cisco switches, right? That's kind of how we got things working in the IP world. Wow.
I just had to do that here the other day, actually. So,
wow.
So actually installing some WheatNet IP blades at my own station. So I was programming some Cisco switches.
Wow. All right. Let's take. I think next we got a trip down memory lane.
That is definitely a trip down memory lane. That was also at ABC. So that was quite a few years.
Is that the ABC facility where Mark Bryant worked?
I'm not sure if Mark was there. I worked with Leslie was the chief engineer at the time.
Leslie. Oh, and now was this the ABC stations or the ABC network in Dallas?
This is the ABC network in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll never forget. Disney was in there as well. You know, they had Disney Radio in there at the time. And when I was working on the studio, they're like, "Oh, I want you to meet a special guest," and it was Hannah Montana.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
It was on Disney Radio next door. So
we used to watch the Hannah Montana show here at our household years ago when the kids were littler, and if well, let's just say Hannah Montana didn't turn out the way that we all thought she would. she's a little bit different. Oh my gosh. Let's look at one or two more pictures here before we take our next break. Jack FM playing what we want. Where's this?
So that's transitioning a little bit into, which we'll get into this, but that's a remote broadcast that we're doing for in Altoona, one of my radio stations.
Okay. This is one of your stations. Cool.
Yep.
So one of your stations does the Jack format.
Correct. Yep.
Which means how does that work? Are you like take all you're fully integrated with that format, and do you really play what you want, or do you play what the format wants?
They actually send you the music library, and they send you a playlist every day. So most of our stations have live talent, live morning shows and everything. But, we can only afford to do that with, not, some of the stations, not all the stations. So, this particular format is for people that really don't want to hear the jocks. They just want to hear music and everything else. And believe it or not, the station has a big following in Altoona, and people really, really love the Jack FM format. But they send playlists every day. It's just loaded in the automation, and it pretty much runs itself.
Yeah. Well, it is popular, and for a lot of reasons. Hey, we are talking to Matt Lightner. Matt, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we got pictures from a nice, beautiful installation in Rochester, New York, and some transmitter site pictures coming up too. And then in the kind of the second half of the show, we're going to be talking to Matt about the transition from a purely broadcast oriented company to one that also does corporate AV and some others. We'll have pictures. We'll keep our powder dry and show you those in a few minutes. I'm Kirk Harnack. It's This Week in Radio Tech, and our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcast Bionics. Now, these guys, I tell you, if you need to be familiar with what they offer, if you're an engineer and you have a manager to report to, or a VP of engineering, or if you're a VP of engineering, you need to know what they offer so that you can see, hey, we have an opportunity to for this local morning show to really make it pop with more social media interaction. Or, hey, we've got a small medium market station and we need a new phone system. Well, Broadcast Bionics has a computer-based phone system for on-air, call-in, contesting, all that kind of stuff. It's called Caller One. Let's hear about it now.
Caller One is the talk show system that anyone can use and everyone can afford. Live radio thrives on listener engagement, and phone calls play a crucial role by bringing real-time interaction, authenticity, and a true sense of community. But with the rising costs of traditional phone lines, broadcasters need to migrate to SIP. But this has been complex and expensive until now. Caller One makes your move to SIP easy, enabling you to save on line rental and improve call quality while at the same time integrating seamlessly with your existing hardware and workflows. With Caller One's intuitive browser interface, you can answer, screen and route calls to air from any device anywhere on the network, eliminating the need for expensive dedicated hardware. And it integrates seamlessly with the IP or analog console you already have. It's quick and easy to add notes and flags to callers. And with its built-in database, you can view call history and previous call notes all on one screen. As well as smooth call handling, Caller One records an isolated feed of the caller and presenter for every call, allowing rapid editing and repurposing of content for trails, podcasts, or social media. Flexible licensing allows you to choose 3, 6, or 12 lines, which can even be shared with a second studio. Make the switch to SIP with Caller One for a subscription that is less than the price of the daily coffee run. Get started today at bionics.co.uk/caller1.
Yeah, these guys are really clever. You can go to their website and find out all about it, and then you can get it from different dealers. If you're in the U.S., they have several dealers here, and they have dealers, of course, all around the world. Check it out. Caller One from Broadcast Bionics. All right, it's This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack. It's our 791st episode. I want to say 791th, but that wouldn't be right. Our guest is Matt Lightner, a name that I have been hearing for years and years and years. Finally get to have him on the show to talk about broadcast engineering, really, on the ground, and then a little bit about the business of broadcast engineering, contract engineering, servicing, and expanding that business into some other things like station ownership and large-scale AV work. But right now, we're still focused on radio stations. Matt, thanks for joining me. First of all, I really appreciate you being here. You're going to be at NAB, right? You're going to be there in Las Vegas?
Unfortunately, this year I'm going to miss. I'm having a couple little health issues I got to get taken care of. So
okay.
I've been going since I'm at 21. So for a lot of years, I'm 49 now, but unfortunately going to miss this year.
Okay. Well, I won't see you there, but I'm glad I had you on the show then. Haven't had you now. All right. We got some more pictures to look at. We got some Rochester, New York pictures if Suncast wants to bring that up. Oh, my goodness. Wow. This looks like so much work.
This was a lot of work. Yes, it was interesting install. We actually did a Wheatstone TDM-based system with probably about 12 studios in their existing building. And then all of a sudden the city came in and said, yeah, we're tearing down the Midtown Mall building. You need to vacate the building and move. So we had to move everything and basically rebuild a facility again in the HSBC Center, which was, fairly close, to the old facility, but, they allowed us to buy 1 or 2 new studios, and then we had to keep every station on the air while moving all the equipment we just installed 2 years earlier into this brand new facility. And it was very challenging to keep everything on the air. And I think we were allowed a 4-hour downtime at the most in the middle of the night to move things. And, we learned a lot about all the coordination that had to go into moving a major market radio station.
If you needed to explain what's on this picture here to a fairly new engineer, let's say someone who had come into our business and they had started with audio over IP, because that's been around now for literally 20 years. What would you tell them about what's going on here on this wall, which is an incredible integration of both electrical signals, mostly audio, probably some control, and mechanics? You really had to integrate these two things to make it all make sense and keep track of it. What would you tell them is happening here on this wall?
Yeah, we actually had a metal shop custom design those standoffs for us, so you could put the trunk cabling behind the punch blocks. But what's going on here is the TDM world, which is before IP. With IP, it's distributed, so your CD player connects to a local blade or a local node. In this particular type of system, the older TDM based system, your CD players, your microphones, all your sources had to go back to your rack room, and that's actually your mix engine and routing was all done in the rack room. So what you're seeing here is cabling going into every studio in the facility that's carrying the CD players, the microphones, the speakers, the headphone feeds. I mean, everything coming back to the TOC or the rack room in order for the system to work.
And these days, with audio over IP, you can fit. I think a good rule of thumb is you can fit 500 stereo signals on a gigabit connections. That's probably pushing the limit, but that's kind of a rule of thumb. Normally, we don't do that. Normally, we're on a gigabit or even 100 megabit connection. We're carrying 4 or 8 stereo signals in each direction. So I wonder how if you really tried to squeeze that down to just a few Cat 6 cables, what could you replace? I mean, I've seen stations where they could replace the whole wall with a much simpler setup these days using IP. Would that be right?
Yes, it's much simpler nowadays, with the nodes in the studios. Back in the TDM world here, you were 32 by 32. So each Cat 6 cable or Cat 5 back in the day that you would plug into an audio console or plug into, they did have some local studio mix engines. But each Cat cable would only carry 32 by 32 signals. Where now you're right, you can have thousands in a Cat 6 cable with IP. And also it was it had its challenges, and required a heck of a lot more wiring back then.
Yeah, when IP first came along, and I kind of saw what you could do with it. I guess WOR in New York was one of the first projects where they were building a new facility, but I thought, the people at Belden Cable are going to be really mad at us because they're not selling nearly as much cable as they used to. And you've you've probably done some demolition. I've seen Wisconsin Public Radio, pull out dumpsters full of cabling and replaced it with a couple thousand feet of Cat 6 cabling.
We actually save a fair amount of it because, you still use a little bit of malt cable here and there. So, I try to save as much as I can on ripping a facility apart. Maybe it's because I'm a pack rat. But, another interesting aspect of this particular build out was learning all the issues in New York, let's say with labor in New York. We have labor unions and everything else. And we ended up having to, for example, hire an operator to take all the equipment up in the freight elevator, even though it had normal buttons that you could push to go up to the floor we were on at the studios. We had to hire for 2 weeks somebody at $40 an hour to push the elevator button to take us up. So we learned a lot about in major cities dealing with unions and everything else.
Oh my goodness. Well, that 40 an hour wasn't nearly enough because his apartment's $3,800 a month.
This is a lot of years ago, so I'm sure it's a lot more now.
It's probably more now. All right, we have another picture from Rochester here. Here's what's in front of all those punch blocks, I suppose. All the racks.
And most of this was in another facility, and we one by one had to, as we'd move each station, have to bring this equipment over, the STL equipment, everything else, the satellite receivers, and put it in the rack. And we were allowed 4 hours of downtime. So it was, again, this project, got us ready for pretty much anything as far as learning how to coordinate any type of big moves or new installs.
And, I've seen so many facilities these days where they used to have a dozen or 14 or 16 equipment racks. And when they go to an IP technology, oftentimes they're able to get that down to 2 or 3 or 4 racks. And so it's amazing how things can get a lot more compact these days with equipment handling IP instead of all the myriad different technologies that we used to. Oh, anyway, Rochester, it just occurred to me, Matt, I used to live in Rochester when I was a little tiny kid. I was about 3 years old. We lived in Rochester. New York. Wow. All right, let's see what's next. Oh, also in Rochester. Okay. Good looking studio. I see an old Telos phone system there.
Yep.
Wow. Looks like a 2X12 style phone system.
I have a couple of them on my radio stations, actually. So there are VoIP lines going into them, but with converters, but
yeah.
still use.
Let's think about the acoustic paneling on the wall there. Is acoustic paneling any different today than it was 15 years ago?
Pretty much the same. I forget which company this was, but it was a cloth-based acoustical panel, instead of the foam-based stuff that disintegrates after a while. So this was, pretty stylish for back then.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, let's move on. We have a picture from the field, so to speak. What are we looking at here?
This is one of my stations, actually, I rebuilt. This is WTRN in Tyrone, Pennsylvania. And this is a look at, it was what used to be there was a falling down house trailer that I actually fell through the floor trying to work on the transmitter.
Oh, my.
And I ended up buying a used cellular building to bring in here to house the transmitter, and of course rebuilt the brand new ATU that we built and installed, and new fencing and everything else to fix up an AM, because I still I take a lot of pride in the stations that I own, and like them to be in good engineering shape.
Let's stay on this picture for just a minute. Tell me about these used precast buildings. We've used at our stations in Mississippi. We've bought 2 or 3 of these, and we've been really happy with how they work. The air conditioners were refurbished, and they work great. They're so much better than what the station afforded, whether we bought it or the previous owner bought it before. What's the attraction of these precast buildings, and why are they available on the used market?
A lot of the cellular companies now are actually, their equipment's much smaller now. So they're switching to just outdoor enclosures and getting rid of these, larger buildings. So there's a fair amount of them still in the market. You can pick them up from anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, and they're all cement. They're built to last probably 75 years. Cement roof on them. I mean, they're extremely, extremely rugged, shielded as well, which is great to have next to an AM, is the shielding that's in the walls of this building. And it just was a, very clean install. It was easy to do it with codes, because, you build anything yourself, you have to deal with a lot of different code issues. And this already had engineered drawings with it, and pour a concrete pad and get a crane and set the building down, and away you go.
Yeah, that's interesting. We've had to rent cranes also to get this done, and a couple times that's been a little expensive to get a crane to offload it, especially if it had to be a big crane to kind of reach a long reach to get to where it's supposed to go. Wow, nice. All right, let's see what's next here. Is this in that building?
Yep, that's a look inside the building. So when I bought the station, it actually had an MW1 transmitter that was making about 200 watts of power. And then there was an interesting Energionics that you see at the bottom there that was hit with lightning and blown up. But that was a Legend. I think they call it, not a Legend. It was a Pulsar 1000B, which Bernie only made a few of these at Energionics before he closed shop. And we were able to rebuild that, turn that into a backup transmitter, and we put a AM1A in for the main transmitter.
Wow. All right. Looks like a reliable operation there, especially inside that precast building. Those things really work well. And plenty of grounding. Grounding is everywhere for you to attach to. Just make sure you ground, whatever the building, whatever its pigtail is, it's supposed to come out, right? You ground that well to the outside world somehow. Don't let the building.
Yep, we had a very nice tar ground system put in for this facility. So I, plus you have the ground radials as well. So we tied it all together and have a nice ground system. And this has been a very reliable site.
I think for a lot of stations, using a precast building is an upgrade. And a very good one. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, and we're talking to Matt Lightner. We're going to get to Matt's story about station ownership and his AV consulting, how he's expanded his contract engineering business into that. But first, I want to tell you about Angry Audio. And normally I've got the prop right here, and I've misplaced it. Oh my goodness, I don't know what I did with it. So I'm going to get Suncast to bring up the VoIP phone gizmo from Angry Audio. There it is. And I think... Is there another picture of that on that page? If you scroll down, is there a picture that shows how the thing goes together? The VoIP phone gizmo is a little box, and it comes attached to the stand for a Yealink phone, for a specific Yealink phone. I believe it's a T46U phone. And that phone is special because it has what they call a class-compliant USB port on it. Now, that USB port typically is used for a little Wi-Fi dongle. If you want to locate this phone somewhere where you don't have an Ethernet connection, you can put it on the company Wi-Fi and have your phone connect to the business world that way. But that little USB port on the back of it also is class compliant for audio. And that means that you can get as clear audio as the phone can possibly make from a VoIP call. You can get that audio via USB into the VoIP phone gizmo from Angry Audio. And you can see there on the picture that it actually comes attached to a replacement stand for the phone. So you take the old stand off, it just unclips, and you clip the new one on, and bam, you've got a phone interface to your analog audio equipment, because it has Studio Hub connectors for audio in and for audio out. And they're balanced. It's stereo audio connections, but of course, phone is mono audio. And it works great. It's amazing how good this sounds. There's really, with a VoIP connection, there's not much that a hybrid does that this won't sound as good as. So, if you want phone activity in your on-air room or a production room, or you've got a voiceover room, someplace where you need a phone line, you can get this VoIP audio gizmo, and you plug it in the phone. It's got to be a T46U phone. That's what it works with. But remember, the T46U is just a SIP phone, so it'll connect to virtually anybody's SIP PBX, it just works great. I've had them around here in my office. I was doing some rearranging here in my office before. I'm not sure where I put it. That's embarrassing. I'm sure Angry Audio will want it back when I'm done advertising it, but I've tried it out. It works absolutely great. And talk to other engineers who have tried this as well. You'll get a lot of good response. It's the VoIP phone gizmo from Angry Audio. The website is angryaudio.com, and you can get them through any of your favorite dealers. And it's a whole lot cheaper than a VoIP phone system for putting callers on the air. And you can have calls lined up on your phone. You can have, multi extensions on this phone. I think that phone handles 6 extensions. So you work with your SIP phone PBX, and you can have a 6-line phone system right there for very little money. Check it out. Our show is also brought to you by Max Connect. And Max Connect is really proud to have this relationship with Audio Science. And Audio Science makes this amazing tuner card. These are AM, FM, HD, and weatherband tuner cards. And they go into a frame that Max Connect has designed. It's the RMT 416. The RMT 416. And you can get just one tuner card, or 2, or 3, or 4. And you can see right there on the screen the different styles of tuner cards that they have there. You can get one that does AM, FM, or weatherband, or AM and FM with HD, AM HD or FM HD. And it has a separate antenna input for the AM and for the FM and wideband, or weatherband, I should say. And a separate antenna input also on the RMT 404 for AM, AM HD, FM, and FM HD. Lots of combinations available. Figure out what you need, or call the folks at Max Connect to help them get them to figure it out what you need. These go into a frame, and the frame has the Ethernet connection. So you can hook it up to your business network. You can stream audio privately to yourself from anywhere You can listen to any of your stations. And here's what's really cool. I have one across the office here that I've been playing with. And you tune in an FM station that has RDS, it shows you the RDS right there on the screen, right there on the web user interface. In fact, if you go to the Max Connect website, you can play with this thing. Now, I can't guarantee that somebody before you hasn't gone over there and maybe tuned the station off somewhere. I don't know if they disabled that or not, but you can demo this thing for yourself. It is quite amazing. Oh, and look on the screen now. SNMP is available if you need to check on your RDS, the presence of signal, the presence of carrier. And look at these graphs. The internal web interface keeps track of all this information that you can then go back and graph. Oh my goodness, look, our carrier was off for 8 minutes this morning. Must have lost power at the transmitter site. So there's all the different kinds of things that you can monitor and graph right there with the RMT 416. Max Connect is the website. I know it's spelled funny because it's the internet. MAXXKONNECT, maxconnect.com. This is the RMT 416. We're going to be doing a video about this here in pretty short order. So check it out. And if you're at NAB, come by the booth, the Max Connect booth, and check it out there along with the other offerings from Max Connect. All right. I'm Kirk Harnack. It's This Week in Radio Tech. We're talking to Matt Lightner. And Matt, let's see. We have a couple more pictures. Let's see if we can buzz through a couple of pictures quickly, and then we're going to get to the AV items. Beautiful control room. What's this?
That was University of North Carolina. So that was another real interesting older project, but very interesting because they took the old Lucky Strike tobacco factory and turned it into a radio studio. And, so we had to, you'll see that, some of the furniture actually had to maintain some of the old architecture. So you have an old beam that was used to hold the building up as part of the furniture. But, it was a very neat install we did for the University of North Carolina.
Wow. And the Lucky Strike, Matt, you are a few years younger than I am. Do you remember the phrase LSMFT?
I do not.
Apparently they use that in their advertising. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. that was their slogan back then. All right. And I think we got one more picture, right? Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Another picture of UNC. Yeah. Yep.
Nice. We'll tell you what, gives Suncast a moment or two to switch to the other folder of pictures. Matt, let's talk about your company's transition as a broadcast engineer. It seems like broadcast engineers get experience in a wide variety of technologies. Tell me about how your experience with various different technology implementations led you to expand your engineering business.
So one of the issues we ran into with broadcast engineering is broadcast integration per se, is a lot of it's on the road. And I enjoyed doing projects for a lot of years, seeing a lot of cities, and I really enjoyed it. But more and more, my employees didn't so enjoy that. They started families and everything else, and it became apparent that in order for me to keep my employees, we needed to move more into doing local work. So we transitioned our business into doing corporate audio video. And what I mean by corporate audio video is we did a lot of house of worship at first, a lot of large churches, which are very much like a broadcast facility. You have large mixing consoles for front of house. There's actually a couple of them that feed TV programs. So you have mixing consoles for the TV side, camera systems, pretty much everything you would see in a broadcast facility other than the transmitter. You have in a lot of these larger churches. So we transitioned into doing some of that, and also corporate AV, video conferencing, large sound systems and different things like that. All very sort of same technology as broadcast. Especially nowadays, a lot of the AV projects that we're doing are all Dante based, which is audio over IP, very similar to a lot of the broadcast audio over IP, using Dante and AES 67. And, so there's a lot of similarities that allow us to use the same skill set to work for local corporations and local churches and things like that. So we're not living out of a suitcase all the time.
Let's. I think Suncast has pictures ready now. Let's take a look at the first one. Looks like a big conference room. What do you get asked to do in a room like this?
So we'll actually design the complete room. As far as we'll work with the when they were building this room. This isn't a nationwide insurance agent. This is their corporate boardroom for where they conduct a lot of their business. And when they were going to remodel this room, they hired us to come in and plan everything out as far as where the TVs went, where the cameras go, and work with the architect to lay out where all the conduits in the building go, or in this room go, and pretty much put everything together to build a video conferencing room for them to be able to communicate with other employees in different parts of the United States.
As a child myself of the 60s, it looks to me like the room is missing something, and that would be the cigar ashtrays. It looks like the kind of room where the fat cats are sitting around smoking cigars, making deals. But what are some of the more interesting functionalities? Camera with conferencing, for example.
Yeah, this one actually is based off of a Cisco WebEx system, which also runs Teams. But as I always say, the higher up the chain you go in corporate AV, the higher executives you deal with, the simpler the equipment has to be, because a lot of times they don't understand technology at all. So this particular equipment, they just schedule the room in Outlook or Microsoft 365, and it automatically joins the meeting. It can count how many people are in the room. If you say there's supposed to be 6 people in the room, the camera system can count there's 6 people in the room and tell them everyone's present, and it automatically joins the meeting at the scheduled time. There is a 4K camera bar that you see there under the TV that actually uses audio to triangulate the person talking, and it could show show a view of the whole room, and then when one particular person talks, it zooms right in on that one person and makes a real lifelike video conference in the way it works.
Wow.
And what we've done is we do a lot of the programming. The Cisco system drives this system, but there's also AMX, which is the control system, which turns all the TVs on and gets everything ready. So there's just one button they push on that screen to start the whole system up. And then this also has Shure ceiling microphones to pick everything up. It's Dante based, Shure, ceiling mics that it is able to pick up anything anybody says, and also has a bunch of DSP in it to get rid of background noise. There's echo acoustic cancellation built into it, and there's a lot of complex stuff you need to do in order to keep it simple, so they can operate it.
And since it has all that technology with the microphones and the noise reduction, you don't have to have desk mics on the desk.
Correct. Yep, everything's overhead in this particular install.
Wow. And obviously it works well enough for video conferencing where people can, in a different city, could hear everybody speaking, and I guess this could be recorded for playback later. But I can't believe a system like that would be adequate for an on-the-air broadcast purpose. We're looking at 2 different use cases here. Am I right about that, or is the audio such that you could use it for a broadcast type application?
It would be close, because actually the microphones are steerable microarrays. And what I mean by that is you have software that you define where the microphones pick up. And, I can say that the conference room table was this wide, the person sitting here, I don't want you to pick any reflections up off the wall. And, you could get pretty decent sound out of this that could be made for broadcast. As a matter of fact, one of the microphones that Shure makes for I was sitting on the conference room table. They've recently remarketed to use for sporting events, for broadcast. That you can
Mhm.
put them at like a baseball game and pick up all the crowd noise and pick up the players and everything like that. And it's the same technology. It's the steerable microarray technology that Shure developed that they're now selling for broadcast use.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, we got some pictures next of something that's shaped like a conference room, but it's a lot skinnier and longer. Oh my goodness, what's going on here?
So this was a project very unique. We were approached at the time. It was actually the president of Norfolk Southern, and he wanted a bunch of AV technology put in a lot of their business cars. And the business cars are cars that they have for briefing the shareholders in, for having company meetings, and this particular one they call the observation car. That they take people in and show them, take it around the horseshoe curve and everywhere else, and show them all the sights. And we had custom TVs designed for this, and video switching, direct TV, satellite, and everything else put in this particular train car.
And this is a moving, working train?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. It's not just train cars sitting at corporate office to look at it. It actually rolls on the rails, huh?
Yep. As a matter of fact, we
wow.
were able to take a test run and go around the horseshoe curve to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and back in this car to make sure all the technology worked.
Well, I think we have a picture of that. It's next.
The world famous horseshoe curve, which happens to be in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, winding through the mountains around Altoona, right?
Yep.
Wow. Well, all right. Let's see the next picture because it's another interior.
This was interesting. This is called Operation Lifesaver. In this particular car, I mean, it would move from city to city. They would take elected officials on this car, police officers, and everything else, and they would show you what it was like to move through train crossings. And they were really teaching about crossing safety. But one thing unique about this was we come up with a camera that mounted on the front of the locomotive that used a microwave link to send video back to these displays. And they would actually see what the operator sees as they go through train crossings and everything else. So very broadcast related, but AV.
In the world of a train, where the cars are coupled together, but I guess you really don't have the option, do you, of running Cat5 cable from, the length of the train. That would complicate things. Do you have to do things wirelessly from car to car to car?
This particular one was wireless because you never knew what cars it was going to couple up against. But a lot of the business train cars that you saw earlier there, they actually had Cat5 connections between the cars, and we used a Neutrik ruggedized Cat6 weatherproof connector that would actually couple between the cars in order to get a network link between them.
All right. Well, switching gears to another corporate entity, let's take a look at this. Sheets.
So we pretty much handle all the corporate AV for Sheets, which is a convenience store company based in Northeast PA. They have 800 and some stores, and pretty much anything audio video related for the company we handle. This is a smaller conference room we did for them, but they have 50 some conference rooms that we've built company wide. The whole way up into Michigan, because they're moving into the Michigan area right now. Columbus, Ohio. We've built a lot of facilities all over the East Coast for them.
I don't mean to be so snarky, but I'll bet you there's a sentence that I know of that's been spoken in this room, and that sentence would be, this could have been an email.
They love to have meetings.
It looks like they do. Let's look at the next room. We can fit even more people into our meeting. And as engineers, we've been to rooms like this, classroom type setting.
Yes, this is one of their training rooms. And one thing about Sheets is they still have a hybrid work environment. So their meeting rooms we maintain all of them for them. And they're like, if they go down, it's sort of like a broadcast facility. I mean, we have to be there the same day to fix anything that fails, because being that they're a hybrid work environment, the only way to meet with employees at home are through these conference rooms and in these large rooms that you see here. So they're very big on keeping them up and working all the time and maintained, because they use them, they need them.
Let's look at the next picture, and I'm guessing this is some of the infrastructure behind the conference room and so forth.
This is actually for their wellness center. So another thing that Sheets is really big into is taking care of their employees. They're always in the Fortune 100 list of being one of the best employers. And this particular rack is basically it's a gym. Instead of a wellness center, they Sheetsify it and call it the Schwellness Center. But here's a look at, some networking we did for them with the Ubiquity switches up top, direct TV receivers. They're actually, when they're exercising, able to select one of those direct TV receivers and watch their favorite program while they're on their exercise bike or treadmill or whatever they want.
Okay.
Then down below that is the audio system for the whole facility.
Let's look at the next picture then, and we'll have more context as to what. So that rack we just saw is powering the AV in this gym, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And let's see, do we have another picture, or are we kind of lost track?
This is some of the new technology we're getting into now. We're instead of using projectors, a lot of companies now are transitioning to video walls. So this is just a look at us building a video wall we just did here last year for an insurance company. And there's 100 of those little modules you have to pop together in order to build this video wall. It was one of the first ones we did, and we learned a lot from it, and it's pretty cool.
Wow. Tell you what, we're going to hold off on the last picture until after our last break. We are talking to Matt Lightner of Lightner Electronics. And when we come back for our final few minutes, and Matt, we won't have a lot of time, but I'm going to ask you to give us a little bit of the story of what made you decide to get into broadcast station ownership and what you bring to the table as an owner, as an engineer, now in the ownership position. How has your engineering background equipped you, or maybe challenged you for being a station owner? Because at some stations, I know the employees say, it takes a special kind of evil person to be a station owner or manager, and I don't think you're in that category. It's This Week in Radio Tech with Matt Lightner. I'm Kirk Harnack. Our show is brought to you in part by Innovonics. And the Innovonics product that I love, I own several of them myself. It's the Sophia HD Radio Site Streamer. Love this box. Why? Well, it's amazing what it does. The Site Streamer, this is called the Model 568 Site Streamer Plus, and it can tune, all your FM stations and your HD stations. It has a web interface built into it, although I tell you, you can do an amazing amount of stuff right from the front panel. In fact, we've got one of these at our Oxford, Mississippi station cluster, and the on-air guy, he knows how to go in there and tune to either other stations or tune to our HD 1 or 2 or 3. It's got so many features that really make it useful for those in the FM and HD world, including, and I love this because I used it at our HD station in Hawaii, the split mode. So you can put some headphones on and put it in split mode, and you're going to hear your FM station out of one ear and your HD one out of the other ear. And for you to adjust the delay on the FM, so it matches the delay of the HD, so that when people's radios swap between those as they drive around, you don't notice it. And I tell you, that works so well. It is just unbelievable. It has plenty of alarms like audio loss, low signal, RDS alarm, pilot loss alarm, HD loss alarm, email alerting. Just really terrific. It has an audio over IP port. It does Dante, which is AES 67 compatible. And it's great. It's awesome. power goes out, comes right back up on the same station it was. It does have level meters on it. It has a headphone jack right in the front. I've got mine wired into the rest of my Axia AOIP system, so I can listen to it anywhere. I can bring it up on any of our audio consoles. I can even send this output of this into a streaming encoder a little private streaming encoder that I have, and I can listen to it right back here in Nashville, Tennessee. It is so, of course you can listen to it anyway. It has its own built-in streaming. So there's two ways that I come to think of it that I have to stream with it. So what an intelligent box. It's like all the stuff that they make at Innovonics. It's so well designed. And it's got a band scanner feature too. So you can look and see if there's some noise, some crap, maybe some interfering signal across the band. It lets you see that. So many features that engineers like you and me need to have on the Sophia 568. It's available at Broadcasters General Store. Their website is bgs.cc. bgs.cc. You can call them. Got the number memorized at 352-622-7700. Love these folks at Broadcasters General Store. I've been buying from them since I was building radio stations for Sam Phillips in Memphis, Tennessee. That's been a while ago. Thanks a lot, BGS, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Okay, Matt Lightner's our guest. Matt is one of these engineers who said, I think I could own one of these places. So, Matt, give us a little story on how you got into ownership and what you think you bring to the table as an engineer.
Well, I guess it all started with going to a chamber meeting one night. And I had a business owner approach me and say, look, we have a station in Tyrone. The owner died. We want you to buy this station. And I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do is own a radio station, after working at radio stations for so many years. And, but they twisted my arm and said, Matt, you don't understand, or you don't realize how much a station means to our community. The station does high school graduation on the air. The station, is really part of our community. We don't want to see it die. We really want you to buy this. We promise we'll support you. And the station was in very bad condition and had a lot of problems. And I'm like, well, that's no big deal for me. I know how to fix broadcast stations. So I ended up making a deal, bought the first station back in 2017. And, it ended up working out pretty well in the end. Stations are profitable and I really enjoy it. I was able to do all the engineering part to fix it up. I was able to hire decent management staff in order to run the day-to-day operations from the station. And I'm still very involved as far as programming, through the years doing contract engineering and integration. I've talked to a lot of great station owners and I've learned what works, what doesn't work. And I was able to apply a lot of that in the stations that I purchased. And, in the end, I'm glad I did it. I have a lot of pride and joy knowing that we're serving our community, doing a lot of local events, and we have local morning shows and we're talking to a lot of the city leaders and getting topics out that people need to know about. And, I'm glad I can make that difference and, pretty well enjoy it.
How would you feel about recommending station ownership to other engineers? Is something to avoid, something only if you feel your heart's drawn to it, or something you do or don't want to get tricked into?
It's not for the faint of heart. I will say that. I mean, broadcasting is is getting harder and harder with, with everyone able to stream everything and so it's more and more about providing content local content that people want to listen to. And it's also driven a lot more engineering wise, so it's, nowadays you're dealing with video cameras, you're putting a lot of your stuff, on your Facebook feed, on YouTube, it's progressing more than just audio over the air, so that's one aspect I really bring to the table. I feel is, understanding the engineering part of it so well, I can move the stations into the future a lot easier than maybe a local owner that really doesn't understand technology. The hardest part nowadays in broadcast you'll find is hiring salespeople. I guess engineers and salespeople now are really hard hard to find,
Yeah.
and we struggle with that a little bit. But there's a lot of business aspects that engineers typically don't have that I had to learn over the years. I surrounded myself with a lot of good mentors that understood all the labor laws and understood all the business laws and everything like that helped me progress over the years into the business aspect and learning the sales aspect of radio and everything else.
Matt, we are up against what we can call in the industry a hard stop. We got to go. I so much appreciate spending the last hour and 10 minutes with you on This Week in Radio Tech. Thanks for telling your story and making us aware and giving engineers, I think, everywhere some encouragement by example in what you've been able to do with your contract engineering business and getting into other industries and station ownership. So thank you so much for taking time to be with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gert.
All right. This Week in Radio Tech. Hey, be sure you visit our sponsors. Be sure you click that subscribe button if you're on, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and like us, share it out, and if you ring the bell if that's appropriate for your notification to make sure you catch every one of these. Big thanks to our producer Suncast for producing another great show. We got to run. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech.